Welcome to our in-service professional development session for Advanced Language and Literature. Thank you for adopting this book for your classroom. Our goals for today's session are to make sure that you are well prepared for using Advanced Language and Literature in your classroom. This course is designed to walk you through the pedagogy of the student edition and the teacher resources that are available to you. Let's start by taking a look at the program as a whole. With your adoption, you will receive all of the materials listed on the screen. Please note that some of the materials are add-ons. If you are interested in purchasing these materials for your class, please contact your sales representative. This first video will cover the student edition. If you are familiar with our AP titles, you will be familiar with the layout of Advanced Language and Literature. The first 4 chapters are skill-building chapters, while the rest of the text are thematic. You can plan your course in a number of ways, but a common tactic is for teachers to weave the first 4 skill-building chapters throughout their teachings of the thematic chapters. We're going to start by taking an in-depth look into Chapter 5, the first thematic chapter of the text. Let's start by taking a look at the key elements of each chapter. Each chapter is given a theme and a series of essential questions to help your students focus. The essential questions for Chapter 5, which is focused on identity and society, ask your students to think about their own identity and how it is formed, then builds to ask about conformity. Each chapter contains an opening activity to introduce your students to the concept that they will be studying. For example, Chapter 5 is focused around identity and society. This activity asks your students to define their own identities by completing the chart. The central text is a major work by a world-renowned author and serves as the chapter's anchor. For Chapter 5, we have selected George Orwell's Shooting an Elephant, specifically Act 1, Scene 1 through Act 5, Scene 8. At the end of each act, we provide you with questions in different sections. 1. Understanding and interpreting. 2. Analyzing language, style, and structure. And 3. Connections, argument, and extensions. At the end of the piece, we provide you with step-by-step instructions for writing an essay entitled Topics for Composing. After the central text, there are 2 clusters of texts arranged in conversations. These conversations focus on the skills needed for the AP Literature and AP Language courses. The first conversation for AP Literature contains the texts above on the screen and are all under the theme of changes and conversations. The second conversation contains pieces from Alexandra Robbins, Horace Mann, Maya Angelou, and more, all under the theme of the individual and school. Each piece is followed by various questions, similar in style to the ones following the central text. At the end of each conversation is a feature called Entering the Conversation. This page introduces your students to synthesis. This is on page 173 of your text. At the end of the chapter, we provide you with 2 workshops, a reading and a writing workshop. Within each workshop are multiple activities you can do with your class. We'll take a look at them in depth now. The first page of each workshop has a green border, so it's easy to flip to. The reading workshop in Chapter 5 is focused on analyzing point of view. The workshop starts with 2 picture comparison activities, one of the Taj Mahal in India and the second of a picture taken of a person versus a selfie. We provide your students with questions to answer for each set of images. Following the images, we provide you with multiple activities for analysis and connecting point of view and theme. We provide your students with a piece to look at and multiple questions for each. The writing workshop in Chapter 5 is focused around writing a personal narrative. We provide your students with step-by-step instructions for writing an effective narrative, from finding a topic to organizing the narrative using details and dialogue and reflection. Throughout this, we provide you with multiple activities to use. Here's an example of 2 now. In our next video, we will take a look at the teacher resources. This second video will focus on the teacher resources that you have received with your adoption of Advanced Language and Literature. Before we get started, I want to show you the main components of your teacher resource materials. Your teacher's edition is filled with activities, teaching tips, and videos. Additional resources are available in your teacher's resource materials. You can download these from your teacher's resource flash drive or online. You will also receive an ExamView test bank CD to create additional tests and quizzes. Let's start with the planning pages that appear before each chapter. The planning pages provide you with a teaching guide for the chapter and include a chapter overview and overviews of the central text, conversation pieces, and workshops found within the chapter. After the overviews, we provide you with a unit planner and pacing guide. This is based on a 50-minute class period and provides you with a purpose, tasks, and how much time it should take for you to complete each task in your classroom. Finally, we also provide you with a summative assessment prompt that outlines the assignment you can give your students with this chapter. Beyond multiple ideas, we also provide you with a rubric to use when grading the prompt. Now that we've looked through the planning pages, let's get started with the teaching tips and strategies provided around the margins of the Annotated Teachers Edition. There are multiple types of marginal annotations. Let's take a quick look through the types before we dig deeper into them. Building context tips. denoted by a pink building, helps you give background on the piece or concept to your students, and give advice on some other things students should do research into or think about as they're reading through the text. Teaching ideas, denoted by a green light bulb, are general teaching ideas and strategies from our expert ATE authors. Check for understanding, denoted by a blue check mark, gives you a question to ask your students to make sure they are reading into the text. Teacher resource materials, denoted by the aqua TRM, let you know that you have additional materials available within your teacher resource materials found online and on your flash drive. Now we'll take a look at some of the ways the annotations will help you by looking at the annotations for the first conversation in the chapter. The workshop starts with images of David Bowie at various points in his career to show his transformation. Our teaching idea tells you to ask your students to bring in pictures of themselves from 5 to 10 years ago, then pair off your students and have them discuss the photographs. Then assign them a writing assignment and reflection on how they've changed since the photo was taken and how their identity has changed. Advice for close readings provides strategies for making sure your students are reading the pieces correctly. The check for understanding boxes provide stopping points for you to check in with your students. For example, this one shows something that you as a teacher may not think is a challenge, but a student may have trouble with. It provides you with some questions to ask your students to make sure they understand the reading. The TRM contain a ton of materials, which we'll look at in a minute, but one of the most useful things on it are suggested responses to all of the questions in the book. When you see this TRM button, you know there will be something to use in your classroom. Building context will likely be one of the most useful notations you'll have. This provides assignments, discussion prompts, and more. The Teacher Resource Flash Drive is your source for the teacher resource materials. There are a lot to download, so prior to teaching, be sure to go through this closely. This concludes the Professional Development Training course for Advanced Language and Literature. Be sure to download your course planning document after you answer the questions that follow. Thank you.